Now, there is one more data fetching method that we didn't necessarily talk about, and that is client-side rendering. That is our plain old React way. Well, what does that mean? Well, Next.js specifically provides us with these three methods: SSG, ISR, SSR, right? But our plain React way is basically using client-side rendering. That is, our browser is responsible for rendering all the content. JavaScript is responsible for showing it on the page. So if we take a look at our diagram right here, this is essentially client-side rendering. It is rendering the content, and JavaScript is responsible for rendering that content. So if we head over to the Next.js docs, in the data fetching section, there is a section for fetching data on the client side. And they do talk about this, that if your page contains frequently updated data and you don't need to pre-render the data, you can fetch the data on the client side. Now, if our page specifically, right, don't have anything that we need to pre-render for, right? We don't care about SEO, and performance is also not a very big deal. You might be wondering when exactly would be such a situation where performance won't be a big deal. Performance is always a big deal. We want fast applications, right? Well, think about user-specific applications. Applications where it's a personal dashboard. It's a super secure application where you don't necessarily care about SEO at all, and whatever performance that we get from the server is good enough for us. We don't necessarily need to pre-render any of the content. In that case, we can definitely opt in for client-side rendering. Now again, it depends totally on our use case. We can also choose to pre-render most of the content, right? But at the same time, we can choose the other content that could be client-side rendered as well. Now, we can also opt in for a hybrid rendering approach as well. That is, we pre-render some of the content, right? But at the same time, still use client-side rendering to render parts of the page. Just like it says over here, that first immediately show the page without data. Parts of the page can be pre-rendered using static generation, and you can show loading states for missing data, then fetch the data on client side and display it when ready. So we should not forget about client-side rendering because it's also again incredibly useful. Because remember, Next.js is a framework built on top of React. So React fundamentals still apply in a lot of use cases. So again, like it says over here, dashboard-specific pages, private pages, and so on could definitely be client-side rendered, and we don't necessarily need to use our server resources for those things. All right, I hope this makes a lot of sense. Now, in order for us to do client-side rendering in Next.js, Vercel also has provided us with a library called SWR that we will definitely be using in our app Coffee Connoisseur. So hang in there for that. It is definitely going to be exciting where we can fetch data on the client side. And it has a lot more advantages such as we can refetch data after a specific interval and so on. All right. Now that we have learned about all these different techniques, I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.